What's up, everybody? This is Brent with the Dog Trainers Podcast, and we keep getting asked this question. I want to be a dog trainer, but I have no clue where to start. Well, in this episode, we're going to go over how we did it, and maybe that's going to be some really useful advice for you guys. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers, for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend. Episode 2 is all about how to become a dog trainer.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Dog Trainers Podcast. My name is Mariano, and I am the owner and trainer of Untamed Dog Training.
Yeah, what's up, guys? My name is Brent LaBrada, and I'm the owner of Canis Behavior and Training out here in LA. And we get asked this question a bunch. Now, mind you, we both started dog training when we were really young, so we can relate to this question like crazy. I started when I was about 18 years old, and I had no clue where to start as a dog trainer. All I knew is I just wanted to be one. And we get calls all the time from people who are interested, passionate. Here's the funny thing. They're not just young. I have 50-year-olds who want to change their profession. I have people who've loved animals their whole life, but they decided to get that 9-to-5 job or become a marketing manager or become a lawyer, and they're just done. They're done with that industry, and they want to be and work with animals. So it's kind of a interesting question, because I think every dog trainer has a little bit of a different origin story. Well, all we can do is share with you guys what our story was, give you guys some different stories that we know from other people, and we can go from there. But you're going to see some commonalities in these stories. So, Mariano, tell me a little bit about how you started in dog training.
Oh man, years ago. You know, the funny thing about the way that I started in dog training is it was very much on accident. You know, I first kind of was introduced to dog training, you know, in San Antonio at Lackland Air Force Base. And I was training as military police, and I was spending some time at the kennels. There's kennels at that base, because not every base has them. And it was so different, mind you. We're talking, you know, like working dog training. It's nothing like what most people think of when they think of dog training, but
like pet dog training.
Yeah.
Working dog.
Yeah, and these dogs were some hard-charging, serious dogs, right? So at the time, I didn't know anything, and I was just amazed. I've loved dogs, but it was just, you know, so intriguing. And then, you know, you fast forward a few years, and I meet you in LA, and I start to work for a kennel in West LA, and I was just there as kennel staff. I didn't, you know, I had no intention of applying or getting hired or anything like that as a trainer, but you were the head trainer at the time. And I learned a lot of things just, you know, before any sort of apprenticeship, just working at the kennels, you know, the importance of routine, the importance of cleanliness, the kind of inner workings of how groups of dogs behave. Because I think a lot of dog trainers, if they've never been in a daycare setting, they're good with like the one-on-one or you know, 2-on-2 dogs or so. But like 25 dogs in a room where there's this many personalities, and whether or not they mesh and whatever, you know, is happening, that's kind of a different dynamic that definitely, I think, has helped me as a trainer as well. And so having worked there, I forget how long it was, but, you know, the kennel at the time, it had like an official internship program, and I never went through it. I just would stay after work and just learn how to train dogs with you, just kind of hang out.
You would just linger.
Yeah, just linger. So I ended up being there for like, 13 hours a day or something crazy like that.
Yeah, you would stay after your shift because you wanted to shadow and learn what the trainers were doing.
Yeah, and I would stay till the end of like your shift, and we would leave and close the building down, and then, you know.
And you'd ask questions.
Yeah.
You were really hungry for knowledge, and you were really hungry for understanding, which was cool. And I like teaching people, so that's cool.
Yeah, you know, and that's where our relationship began, and, you know, and we worked together for a little while, and then, you know, I went to a few different kennels. I always tell people, I always make the joke that when me and Brent are talking to someone, because between us, we've had a couple of assistants that we've helped work with together. And I always love to tell them that me and Brent have two different stories that ultimately end up in the same place, because he was at one kennel for years and years at a time, and I was everywhere. And so we kind of picked up the respective skill sets that somebody in each of those positions would have. And I think that as we both got better, we both did that thing to where, even though, you know, I was here and he was here, you start to learn so much that you can start to kind of bridge that gap and meet somewhere in the middle. And, you know, knowing him has only helped me, and I'm sure vice versa. And that's where I am today. I started my business. It's been a few years now, and just working it, getting better at it still. It's a continuous process, and I think that in business, it's definitely important to note to a young person that in training, the better you get just on your own, to yourself, the better you get with your own like skill sets of speaking and understanding, where you are emotionally and stuff like that, the better you'll get in business as well. So it's that fun kind of game of push and pull.
Right. Yeah, when you have confidence in your craft, then it is easier for you to develop confidence in yourself as a business or as a trainer, as an educator. Yeah, that confidence is really, really important.
Today, it's crazy to think. I guess I never really look at it from this perspective, but I went from that to I'm running and heading up my own business. I'm working with, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm working with, Phoenix's Chamber of Commerce foundational wing, and I also work with a few different rescues, and I've got my fingers in a lot of different pots, and I'm excited, and it's nice.
I love that, man, and that's great, and I think that's a testament to an individual's passion to be able to, take their knowledge base and be able to share it with people and be able to utilize it on different platforms, and that's super important. I'll talk to people a little bit about my backstory, how I started, and then we'll go into maybe some recommendations or some stories or different ways, avenues of developing dog training skills. I was fortunate enough to work with animals from the time I was really, really young. So my uncle had a ranch with like 35 thoroughbreds. They had goats, llamas, chickens, geese, pretty much every animal that my aunt can think of, they got, and they had it at some point. And I remember from age 11 or 12 till about age 17 when I moved out of the house, I would work every summer and winter at my uncle's ranch. And some of it was tending to the animals, some of it was construction. He lived on a Christmas tree farm, which was interesting. So during the winter, it was Christmas trees and deliveries and flocking the trees, and just it was so cool. And because the ranch was kind of a bit of a petting zoo, it was a pretty cool attraction for people. So at a really, really young age, I got a lot of experience with customer service and physical labor and dealing with animals and all of those things. And a lot of times people ask me, they go, Brent, what is it that makes you so good with animals? Like you just have this gift. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't have a fucking gift. Like, I worked really hard.
Right.
In retrospect, I realized I worked really hard because when I was, 12 years old, there's a freaking goat who's trying to freaking ram you with his horns. And, there's like a peacock who's trying to freaking peck at you and shit. And, one time I got kicked by a horse, and I realized, I was like, you get good with animals really quick when you know that they will try and hurt you, right? So that being good with animals, that quote unquote, talent or gift, is something that you get exposed to when you're put in that environment, right? And so like I was fully immersed in a scenario where I had to learn to be good with animals, or else I would get bit, kicked, chewed up, whatever it was, right? Obviously dogs were the closest things to us. I didn't really sleep in bed with horses or goats, but when I was a kid, my dogs would come and cuddle in bed with me, so I had a little bit more intimate relationship with them. So that's how it started, right? My passion for animals, my skill set for animals, my ability to read things that were nonverbal. But pretty much when it came to actually being a dog trainer as a profession, it started with an ignition of passion. Long story short, I was working at a shelter for 6 months. At the end of those 6 months, there was a series of events that made me want to learn to be a dog trainer and give back and help these animals. And so I literally said, fuck everything I'm doing in life. I'm going to go learn to be a freaking dog trainer. And I did. And luckily, I fell into the hands of a very wonderful mentor. His name is Bobby Durafshar. Those of you guys who know who he is, great. Those of you guys who don't know, Google search him right now. Bobby Durafshar. And he owned a company out here in LA that was my home for 10 years, where I was a animal care attendant. I was an assistant manager, then I became a manager, then I became a trainer, then I became assistant, head trainer, then I became assistant manager, trainer manager, then I became training manager, then I became, chief executive educator, or, the chief of academics pretty much, where I was teaching people how to be dog trainers. And at that time, that was kind of when I met Mariano. And so my story was, again, I was fully immersed into the world of dog training. I was thrown into it, and we'll get into recommendations later, but the only way that I developed the experience that I have, and the only way that I can do the things that I do now as a 31-year-old with my level of expertise is that immersion. I was thrown into it, and I learned with a passion, and I learned every day, and I've literally trained over 3,000 dogs in the last 10 years. And the experience that one person develops when put in a fully immersive situation, there's no way to beat it. There's no way to beat it, right? So anyways, that's my story. Thanks for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers, for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.